I gotta press the magic OK to say it's fine.
It's fine indeed. Welcome everyone to this again. This is episode 8 actually of the Scrum 101 series with lovely Steve and myself, Ziryan from the Scrum Facilitators. And actually, just before we started, we said Scrum 101 is actually not a good name because we haven't been touching the basics. We actually that deeper. It should be called Scrum 201 or 301 for the more advanced for advanced people, including the basics.
Yeah. We add on to what's already there. So, and don't worry if you've never come across Scrum before. Where have you been? And you don't know anything about the retrospective, don't worry. We will be explaining all about it. So it's we assume nothing, but yet we'll build on top. So cool. Oh, let me share my screen, and then you'll be able to follow what we're talking about as well, which is always good. So, Zirian, would you like to introduce yourself to people that don't know about Zirian?
Of course. My name is Irjan, one of the co-owners of Scrum Facilitators in the Netherlands. People call me Mr. Serious, as you can see here. I have no idea why, because I smile all the time and I like to have fun. Look,
And I'm Steve, another Scrum facilitator in the UK. I don't know what people call me, but they're probably not very kind. And we're going to be talking about the Scrum Retrospective today. So, just some places if you want to know more about us and what we do. We run the full suite of Scrum.org courses. We also are in the UK, Netherlands, Singapore, and virtual as well. So we also this I don't know, Zirin, is this an unkept secret or a secret? The Scrum Facilitators Conference, and we are looking for speakers. So if you would like to, actually, Zirin, when does that date close? Do you know for the cutoff for speakers?
at the end of June.
At the end of June. So if you're watching this after end of June, there's always next year.
That's next.
But if you're not, then please put some ideas forward if you want to talk, because what it is, it's an original conference. The idea is that none of the talks have ever been presented before, so they are fresh. So there's no chance that you've gone to another conference and you've heard the same talk from that same person. So these are all fresh, and that's kind of the uniqueness. And it's incredibly friendly. I love coming across from the UK to the Netherlands to attend. I always come away with loads of great ideas that I can implement myself. So and it's in November, isn't it? So this year.
And you forgot the highlight of the day. We have good food.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
And good
it's like
coffee.
the selling point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
So
and Steve, what's also fun is we also have our Scrum Facilitator original and collaboration courses, and there's actually a new one which we created. We noticed there's a lot of demand for Scrum Masters after doing the PSM2, for example, the PSPO Advanced. They, okay, I hear a lot about Lean, but how can I apply it as a Scrum Master? So actually, our Master Black Belt Ashwini, which is one of our employees at Scrum Professionals, she has designed a course together with us about Lean for Scrum Masters, which is a new course.
cool. Cool. Sounds exciting.
It is.
So we do everything Scrum and also Kanban as well. And check out the conference, check out the other workshops that we're doing. So we'd love to keep in touch with you. So that's how you can find us on LinkedIn, and you can book a meeting with Zirian and also myself. So it'd be great to talk. It's always good to talk. Now, Zirian, let's get into the content. Let's get into this content. Now, the retrospective, it's an event. Events should be looked forward to, and they're time boxed as well. So that's how you know something's being is an event. Something we're being transparent around, something we're inspecting, something we're adapting. And we've highlighted some text from the Scrum Guide here that actually really speaks to that purpose of transparency, inspection, adaptation. We've also put in one of the Scrum values in there because it highlights the focus around it. So the purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. And I think that's really important because I've been in lots of retrospectives where we're thinking about what went well, what didn't go well, what could we improve, and it's like the happy, sad, mad, glad mix and all those kinds of things, or the the Miro mural boards where we're trying to pretend to be an Avenger or something, and what kind of theme do we want? And it's kind of gets lost. But what we're wanting to do is increase quality and effectiveness. The Scrum team inspects how the last sprint went with regards to individuals' interactions, processes, and tools. So we're looking at how we are working as a collection of people, as a team, processes, relationships, and tools. How do we work? Part of that definition of done definitely is part of a process. And if we want to improve quality, linking back into that first line, now is a great opportunity to have a conversation. Hey, Ziryan, do you remember that time we did X in the sprint? That was a great idea. Why don't we keep doing that? And Ziryan says, no, let's make sure everybody keeps doing that. Let's put it in the definition of done. Oh, okay. I quite like that idea that we're going to do peer programming, or we're going to make sure that the doors closed before we do something. Those kinds of things. So we look at assumptions that may have led them astray or identified, and their origins explored. Looking at data as well. What assumptions are we making? If we have data, we can back that up. Hey, did you realize it took X amount of days or for this item to work across? No, that took ages. No, no, no. It felt like ages, but it was this. It only took 2 days to do. So have empirical data to back up your assumptions. It's a great tool to have in your back pocket and go, this happened, and here's the proof, as opposed to a gut feel. The Scrum team discusses what went well during the sprint, what problems it encountered, and how those problems were or were not solved. So it's linking back to what I said. Hey, Ziryan, remember when? Yeah, let's make sure we always do that. Or next, let's make sure we never do that again, kind of thing. So the Scrum team identifies the most helpful changes to improve effectiveness. So we're having focus around that. The most impactful improvements are addressed as soon as possible, and they may be added to the sprint backlog for the next sprint. And that's what it says in the guide. That's what it says in the guide. Ziryan, before everybody joined, we were having a conversation about saying the most impactful improvements.
Yes.
That's more than one.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I was wondering if we are talking about focus, right? Because on the one hand, it says most, which is there's only one most. There aren't multiple mostest. There's only one most, but it does say helpful changes and impactful improvements. So we were discussing, shouldn't the Scrum Guide be changed to only one, like most impactful improvement?
Mm. But what if there's more than one?
Yeah,
What
right.
if there's look, hey, I'm gonna say I'm running the London Marathon in 2 weeks' time.
Hmm.
And so there's lots of things I've been learning through my sprints, I suppose. Well, actually, they weren't sprints, more like slogs. They were on my plan, and there's certain things. What if 1 week I'm looking at nutrition and I'm taking different gels?
Hmm.
What happens if I want to change the timing period of those gels as well? Do I have to wait another week to try that? There is that idea, just change one thing and see what happens. But this is good ideas. So maybe what we should be doing is wrapping up all the good ideas.
Hmm.
Otherwise, maybe it takes too long
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah, and I think that this is exactly why we are having the discussion, because on the one hand, what we say, like your example, they are connected. So I think this is also in terms of the maturity of the Scrum team, right? How mature are they in terms of um, a let's have enough to maintain the focus? Because I think you also mentioned, like, if the Scrum Guide would say only one, then we would have this nitpickers.
Yeah.
They would say, yeah, no, 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 two good ideas. Nope, that's against the law.
Yeah. You can't do it because the Scrum Guide says, and I hate that when the Scrum Guide says, when people like quote that back, understand the why behind it. Why does it say? What's the purpose? What's the intention?
Yeah,
So, I mean, it makes sense. One goal, one sprint goal provides focus. One product goal, either fulfilled or abandoned before moving on to the next, provides focus.
yeah,
But multiple changes identified, I mean, that's surely a good thing. If you've got more than one, it's good because we're improving.
Yeah. And
So
what's also fun is I don't know if it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. It also goes into the sprint backlog as a product backlog item, right?
yeah,
So that means that you're not handling all the product backlog items at once, right? Because then you will lose focus. You have work in progress limits and so on and so on. So with that in mind, if the team is mature, they can manage not to do too many improvements at the same time,
yeah,
and at the same time not limited to only one when there are multiple good ones that impact each other, right?
yeah, definitely that. Because also it's the developers that own the sprint backlog. I mean, we have an input from the product owner. It's the sprint backlog is their plan for the futures, the sprint on how they're going to meet their commitment of the sprint goal. Now, I've never ever seen this, but in theory, it could be possible that the backlog, the sprint backlog, is filled with all these improvements, and there's no actual capacity in order for any items that the product owner wants to bring in to meet the sprint goal. In theory, that could happen, but I wouldn't really
Not,
imagine
not,
it
not
would.
really, not really, because we are aiming for a potentially releasable increment every sprint. So
Yeah.
it should be at least one small, tiny, tiny bit. But nonetheless, I love this discussion, and this is why we mentioned like this is the Scrum 101, and at the same time is the Scrum 201, 301. It's getting a little bit
901.
detailed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what we need, if there are improvements, that we capture them. And if the developers, if the team, the Scrum team believe that actually let's do this now and let's make sure, put them into the backlog, put them into the sprint backlog. And then it's only another sprint before we see there's value or not. Maybe it was a one-off that worked or didn't work, that kind of stuff. So you're limiting your risk there. So it's a conversation around processes, tools, and relationships. So actually, how are we working as a group of people? How are we working as a team? What things are being said? What things are not being said? Where's that conflict? And I'll guarantee there is always conflict in a team. It's either that, low level or, hopefully avoiding that high level conflict. But, what's going on? Bringing in the Scrum values as well to be focused, open, committed, courageous, and respectful, to have those kinds of conversations. I've looked at a lot of retrospectives in which it feels like there hasn't been a lot of value come out. It's been a talking shop. Somebody's been venting. Somebody's been having, it was crazy, and we never want to repeat that. No lessons were learned. So there's some most common misunderstandings as well, and this kind of links into those aspects that I was talking about. So the Scrum Master, a miss or a most common misunderstanding. Oh, you're the Scrum Master. You can facilitate the retrospective, the sprint retrospective. That's what you do. You facilitate meetings. Not true. Not true at all. As a Scrum Master, hey, if you're truly facilitating, you should be neutral in that conversation. So if you are neutral, how can you be talking about processes, tools, and relationships? How can you be adding input in? And as a Scrum Master, I've actually asked somebody to come in, another Scrum Master, come and facilitate it for me because it was a difficult conversation, and I wanted to partake in it. But it isn't. I mean, the guide talks about the Scrum Master is accountable for facilitating the events. But that just means that if nobody is going to do this, it falls on the Scrum Master to do it. They are accountable. However, as a good Scrum Master, I would be encouraging the team members to come forward and say, hey, Ziryan, do you fancy running the next retrospective? You've got some great ideas. It's not only just up to me to do this, and sharing that responsibility within the rest of the team. It's their process. They should have a say in how it's done.
Yeah.
So
And this is where, as a Scrum Master, also the teaching stance comes in, right? The
yeah,
teaching part, because then we teach the other Scrum team members to facilitate, right? So it's not only about the Scrum Master, and most of all, we don't need games and themes to make it more enjoyable.
yeah,
Yes, I agree, they can help, and I'm a fan of them as well, but a big, 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 big but. It's if the theme is the main topic, of the sprint retrospective, then we miss the point. It's about being effective. It's about having that moment together and making sure that you actually it ties back to lean management on how to create a learning organization, how to create a learning atmosphere to continuously improve as a
Mm,
team, to have those difficult discussions when needed, right?
yeah. Don't spend ages trying to work out which character from the Lord of the Rings are you or which Star Wars character you are. Um, it's good to have a theme, but also it can get in the way. What is as you as a facilitator, take my Scrum Master hat off, as you as the facilitator, what are you trying to get out at the end of it? What focus? And if that focus is being blocked by the theme, the game, the whatever,
Yeah.
then it's not really hitting that sweet spot of where we're getting those learnings for those improvements, getting that value out for people. And also, I mean, the retrospective is a formal opportunity for people to talk about improvements and team dynamics within Scrum. It shouldn't be the only time. It shouldn't be the only time. It is just the formal place to do it. If it happens once, it will happen there, hopefully. But as a Scrum Master and a part of a Scrum team, I've had lots of conversations about how we can improve. Lots of conversations in the daily about progress towards the goal. Hey, maybe we can do X differently or outside of the events. It's kind of difficult now that we're working in this hybrid model of being on Zoom or Teams or whatever, and this might be the only opportunity. I've seen it work a lot better when you're physically in an office together, those side conversations and how you can improve and what we can do differently. So it shouldn't be the only opportunity to do it, because this is what we're needing to do as a team of how we are managing our process. How are we managing our improvements? How are we getting better? So just focusing as the retrospective, and people are, so for example, having arguments or conversations that are getting heated. Hey, let's wait to the retrospective. That could be a whole month away. You might have just started the sprint, and it could be a whole month away before you have that opportunity. No, you notice it. Let's have that conversation now, because that could just fester and becomes it's something even worse by the end of the month or 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, or whatever, those kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and the last topic about the most common misunderstanding is that it actually might feel okay to skip it every once in a
Yeah,
while.
Ziryan, we need to skip this because hey, it's just you know, we're very close to a deadline and we can get that hour back.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that when I encounter it, I do like to check up on with the rest of the Scrum team how important it is to have that conversation with each other, just to get some time off, some reflection time. It's really, 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 really important. And obviously, if it happens more often, then we have the right discussions over there.
Hmm, yeah, but as I've said many times before, for Scrum, it is 3-3-3-5. Three accountabilities, three artifacts, three commitments, five events. If you're not having a retrospective, you could have everything else in place, but it's not Scrum. You are missing an opportunity to inspect, adapt, and be transparent. You're losing potential trust. You're not encompassing empiricism. You're not doing Scrum. You're going to get some of the benefits, probably 90% of the benefits, but because you're missing that last cog, that last key, you're not doing Scrum. You're not going to get all the benefits. And that'd be a real shame because it takes a lot of effort to do good Scrum and you're going to lose that opportunity. So no matter how much pressure you feel, oh, just this once, or just what if it's that just this once? You miss it. But if there was going to be a conversation about under pressure to deliver, what if I came up with a great idea or Zirian came up with a great idea that enabled us to run faster? And that
Yeah,
could doesn't have to be within an hour. It could just be, hey, everybody, we've got this deadline. Let's just go grab a coffee. Let's have a quick conversation. Let's have a check-in. How's everyone doing? Has anyone got some ideas? Because we're under the pressure of doing X, Y, and Z. Yeah, let's stop getting distracted. Or every time you come in and do X, that really annoys me. I need to focus. Oh, okay, cool. It could be as small as that. We've
yeah,
had an opportunity. Doesn't need to be a formal, uh, you know, Miro mural board. We've had a conversation and we can class that as the retrospective. Apologies. This is my throat. So tips for a productive sprint retro,
Yeah.
and we have kind of already spoken about this a little bit, but hey, don't
Yeah.
just turn up and make the magic happen. Prepare for the event. Prepare for it. Think about what conversations you as a Scrum Master or a team member have witnessed, have seen in the Scrum that you were wanting to have a conversation around. And that links into bringing data into that conversation as well. Let's see what actually is this a hunch? Is this a gut feel this is happening? If you've got empirical data that something's happening, you've got more of a conversation point, and you can then start looking about any changes that you do. Has it affected that data? So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's essential to actually to slow down so you can speed up, right? It's just like with the lean mindset that we have continuously improving. Um, just like some people, at least in the Netherlands, when there's a lot of rush, they forget to have lunch. So they scheduled lunch in their calendar. And it should be this obvious that you plan around the sprint retrospective. So your available time to do stuff is everything all the time, except for this one block that you have within your sprint retrospective, because that's like the moment when you slow down, when
Mm.
you actually take the time to breathe, to relax actually, and with a clear mind, think about opportunities and think about new solutions.
So I'm going to shoehorn another reference to running into this, and
Ah,
apologies. So some of you know I'm doing the London Marathon. So that I do something called an easy run. And it's not an easy run because I have to slow down. But in that easy run, I'm looking at my form. What's my posture like? How am I running? What's my breathing like? And I don't get that opportunity when I'm doing a long run or an interval run. But by slowing down and just checking in with actually what's going on, the improvements that I make pay benefits later on.
yeah,
So it's that slowing down to actually just check your form, just to make sure that actually you're holding your arms the right way, and you're bringing your knees up and you're breathing properly, kind of thing. And it's just by slowing down, it does speed you up. Similar kind of analogy with Scrum. Hey, how are we working as a team? That kind of stuff. So slow down to speed up. So
I
as a Scrum, oh, go on.
actually just to tie up tie up on that part because slowing down to speed up requires commitment.
Yeah.
And you can improve and increase the commitment of the entire Scrum team if you, as a Scrum Master, for example, if you teach the rest of them how to facilitate the sprint retrospective. Because then it's all about us. As a Scrum team, we want to improve, right?
Mm,
I want to have the sprint retrospective because that's a moment where I facilitate and we make sure that we look at and we slow down to speed up. So make sure that people are also enabled and thought on how to facilitate the sprint retrospective.
yeah, very much so. And the conversations that when you're having that retro, they're a safe space. So, respect that safe space. So linking into the Scrum values again, being open and courageous around what you're saying requires trust. And if people are worried about what might come out from a retrospective, or somebody's then told X of the conversation, that trust gets eroded. So what happens in the retrospective, um, the conversations, obviously not the outcomes, because they're very transparent if you stick them in the sprint backlog, but there were conversations, respect that space, respect it. Okay. Also, be transparent around those outcomes. So stick it in the backlog, sprint backlog, if there's a change. Keep a list of all the things that you are doing to improve, because often Scrum gets this thing of, oh, it's just so tiring and we don't seem to be improving. But if you've kept a list of all the improvements that you've come back to, and then you can reference it later and you go, hey, remember where we were? We're now over here. It's like, oh, I forgot that we used to have that problem. Yeah, we fixed it. Have a list of how that team is maturing. Hey, it was always Ziryan doing the retrospective. Oh, it was, wasn't it? And then Dave took over, and all of a sudden, we're sharing that, the facilitation of it. So all those improvements, keep a record, be transparent around it. What worked well, and equally what didn't work well. So those lessons learned.
And actually, Steve, I also encourage Scrum teams to discuss the outcomes and the experiments they have run in the sprint retrospective. Sorry, in the sprint review with
Cool.
all the stakeholders to discuss with them. I see some people laughing for my sprint retrospective. Now, but in the sprint review, it's also very important to discuss these with the stakeholders. Like, okay, these are the improvements that we were working on for this sprint to become a better team, to improve our processes, because
Hmm.
that's also part of the transparency and the learning. Yeah, the making sure that everyone in the organization is learning.
Yeah. Yes. And also maybe use the retrospective as a teaching opportunity as a Scrum Master. It's one of your stances, being a teacher. So use this as an opportunity to help people understand the why. Why is it in the daily we talk about the sprint goal more than what we did yesterday, what we did today, and have we got any impediments? Talk to them about the purpose of the events, the transparency, the commitment, all those kinds of things. And also, it's not just the Scrum Master teaching, it's also other people within the group teaching other people and understanding around what we're experiencing. So often what we might see is, oh, I want to do this thing, talk about the daily, for example. Let's do it as a separate meeting. It's like, no, 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 this is an opportunity. It's a process. Let's have a conversation around this. And, so use it as an opportunity to teach, to help people understand their processes, tools, and relationships.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be a separate thing.
true. This ties back to the whole purpose of the events. If you have the Scrum events in place, then it will eliminate all other meetings that you have if you apply it correctly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in overall, it's all about improving team dynamics and not about applying different formats, right?
Yeah.
Because so there was a time when we were in Corona and everyone was working at home. And then I noticed that we just needed to get out. So I asked everyone, does everyone have Microsoft Teams on their mobile phones? Yes. Does everyone have a headphone? Yes. All right. Call in from your phone. Let's go outside. It was just as sunny as the background of you. So it was really, really warm. And then we just went outside and then had the conversation about how to improve as a team. But only this part, because all together we went out, also created like harmony in the team dynamics,
Hmm.
right? So that's also very, very valuable. And we didn't stick to any format that that
Yeah.
day.
And I know it's not just you because Andy Hiles, another Scrum facilitator, used a similar technique of when COVID was over and just got the team to go outside for a walk
Yeah,
and just get some fresh air, just get out of the building and have a conversation, reconnect on the human level, reconnect as team members,
exactly.
that kind of stuff. So just have conversations, and the conversations that came out were really valuable.
Yeah,
So
right.
I know. So
Yeah.
Ziryan,
Yes. So if there's one thing that you need to remember is as a Scrum Master, you need to ensure that the Scrum team finds value and insight from the sprint retrospective. So Scrum team members, developers, or product owners, if they tell you, ah, can we skip it? That should be a flag or at least a sign that you need to talk more and make them help understand why it's important, but also inspect how the sprint retrospective have been so far, right?
mm,
And it's also not only about the product owner and the developers, but also people from outside the Scrum team. Because sometimes they might say, well, there's this important meeting. Maybe you can I say, maybe you can skip the sprint retrospective because this other meeting is very important. That is also a sign as a Scrum Master to make sure that everyone knows what the value and insights are from the sprint retrospective.
yeah, the importance of it, the importance of it. And I just want to echo something that Zirian said there. Product owner and developers. I've been in situations where the product owner has been the client, been a consultancy, and working in there, and the client, oh no, we can't have the product owner in here. They're the client. They don't want to hear how rubbish it is or, those kinds of things. We don't want to wash our laundry in front of the client. It's like, no, 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 no. They are part of the team. They know how good or bad it's going. It doesn't really matter that we say about it. It's the fact that they're part of the team. They attend. If they've got the accountability of a product owner, the Scrum team attends. Okay, so it's not an us versus them. It's a we coming together to talk about our processes, tools, and relationships. So
Exactly.
make them valuable and great insights.
Yeah. So,
So
Steve, who knew we could easily talk for 30 minutes about a sprint retrospective?
I
I
know. So, folks, what questions do you have for Zirian and myself about the sprint retrospective? Anything we've spoken about, you think, oh yeah, but, or oh, I have this issue, or help me understand X. Anything that's here, what's here? I'll stop sharing and we can have a good conversation. Any questions for us?
Feel free to drop it in chat as well if you have
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, no question, but how you were saying, okay, some maybe product owner or whoever says, okay, but we have to push a little bit more to meet the deadline, so let's skip the retrospective. But then I was thinking, but we do the retrospective after we have done the sprint review. So the work is already too late. So it's a very good reason to have that sprint retrospective, especially
Yes.
when people come up with that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
sometimes to be honest, we all at least I always look at what the situation is. And every now and then I do reschedule it or I shorten it or I make sure it happens because we've been in situations where the deadline was really hard deadline. Otherwise, we would miss the window of opportunity of releasing. Yeah, but then also make sure it is rescheduled or at least shortened or whatever. But I totally agree with you. If it's after the sprint review, then probably it should have been done anyway,
Yeah.
right?
And you've just noticed the importance of the sequence of the events. It's the fact that actually it goes in that order. And I've worked with teams where they have like the retro before the review and maybe planning even before the review. And it's like, what? Hey, no, it fits. There is a reason and a rhyme before, the reason why this happens in that order. Oh, yeah, but our stakeholders aren't available until X.
Yeah,
Okay, well, maybe our sprint needs to shift slightly. Yeah, but our reporting structure is a different. Okay, that's something entirely different. Your reporting structure out from the team is not in the same cadence. Change
exactly.
the cadence of that rather than X kind of thing. So it's you know, all that kind of good stuff.
And
But
see, this sequence is also a pain in the beep for me at least, because sometimes when I was a Scrum Master, I analyzed the situation, analyzed the sprint, and some of the developers also said, okay, we need to discuss X or Y. So I prepared the whole thing, and then we did the sprint review, and the sprint review was terrible. So they all wanted to jump on, no, we need to improve our sprint review. Like, yeah, but I prepared this. No, we need to
yeah,
improve our sprint review. All right, let's go. Let's
yeah,
uh, let's see how we can improve it. So that's also why it is a good thing, right?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What else is here? Any other questions for us?
Or remarks, or echo,
Yeah.
or compliments for Steve and me.
Hey, we're scraping the barrel there.
Thank you,
Uh,
Ali.
so. What I would encourage you to do though is have a look if you're using Scrum, have a look at your retrospectives as part and parcel of your events. Do people understand the value, the reason why we have them? And if they don't, help them to understand the purpose, the why, and where the value is in there for them. So, and if they're not seeing that, let's, as a Scrum Master, work in that space as the coach, the mentor, to be able to have those conversations. People like change, they hate change being done to them. So think about those lines of how can I help people get value out of Scrum? So all it is a framework around complexity, scaffolding, And so using that scaffolding, we should be getting value out of it. If we're not, there's a problem as a Scrum Master you need to address.
Exactly. Okay. I'm going to.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
I have kind of a question. So we're a remote team using Miro, and so in the past, usually me as a Scrum Master were conducting the retros, but I'm gonna leave for a sabbatical for 4 months. So I wanted to introduce a rolling system inside of the team that everyone takes over 1 or 2 retros while the time I'll be away. I wanted to prepare some kind of templates, like where they can pick out like stuff to help them to facilitate the retro. Do you have any tips or tricks how to prepare, how to, I don't know.
Yeah, so there
Yeah.
are some websites, and Steve is looking into them right now. While Steve is looking into them, um, I do want to encourage, like, to me at least, the best way to help them is to do it for them, with them, and then they can do it alone. So maybe the first times before your sabbatical, you can help them co-facilitate, or you can help them in preparation, and then make sure that the next one is helping the other one, so
yeah.
that they are not alone, for example.
I'd maybe go even a bit further. Ask the team, how are you going to facilitate this? How do you want to do this whilst I'm away? So
Yeah.
it's not you providing like ready meals for them to pick up from the freezer to cook whilst you're not there. It's, hey, think about this. I'm not going to be here. How do you want to manage this? What do you need from me with the time that I've got left in enable you to have valuable retrospectives? It's linking into that self-management area. So it's no, the why and the what and the how coming together. Thinking along those lines. I dropped a couple of links into the chat window. So Retromat, I don't know if you come across that before. And Tasty Cupcakes. There are lots of websites out there. I personally then go to Retromat just to get some ideas, and then I love the randomness of it, and then go, oh, okay, that's a cool idea, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
And Sonia, I've been in these situations before, also as consultant, because we're not there the whole time, and sometimes we are leaving before they have replacement, or replacement is still to come. By asking the developers and the product owners, sometimes it happens that one developer actually really likes to do it, and sometimes they all together conclude, hey, maybe we can ask the other Scrum Master of another team to facilitate only the sprint retrospective for us. So then they come up with a solution if there are possibilities or whatever. But nonetheless, the links that Steve sent are a great inspiration, source of inspiration.
Okay, thank you.
And have them look at this video as well.
Yeah, I will.
And
I
have a
will
nice
send out the
sabbatical.
link. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, remarks? No.
Hey,
Right.
it's a time box.
Yes, it's done when it's done, or done. Oh,
Yeah,
different
not
topic.
done. Don't get me down, done.
No, that's a topic for the in three.
Yeah, because we were just talking about this because we were saying, hey, we're doing the 3-3-3-5. We've now come to the end of the events, and we've still got the 3 commitments to do. So a bit of a tease for what's coming up. Commitments exist to reinforce empiricism and a measure of progress. Product goal, sprint goal, and a definition of done.
Done.
Yeah, done, just done, not done.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you, everyone.